In a big diplomatic win, India inches one step closer to getting TRF sanctioned by the United Nations Security Council Sanctions Committee. Indian champions have declined to participate in the World Championship of Legends semi-final against Pakistan scheduled for Thursday. This comes after My Trip pulled out of the semi-final as sponsors, reaffirming its policy of non-cooperation with any match involving Pakistan. Sena, UBT and Congress target the centre and BCCI double down on no cricket with Pakistan demand following the Asia Cup schedule. Special intensive revision under scrutiny as fake resident certificates named after a tractor and a dog surface in Bihar. Election Commission pins the blame on the state government. There's no end to canine terror in India. In Gurgaon, a woman was mauled by a pet dog. Meanwhile, in Bengaluru, a senior citizen loses his life after being mauled by a stray. England skipper Ben Stokes ruled out a final test versus India that begins tomorrow. Right shoulder injury keeps him out. NISAR, the first Earth observation satellite developed by ISRO and NASA, is scheduled to lift off shortly from the Sriharikota Space Centre. Our top focus is the sharp rebuke that came to the fore from the Supreme Court, slamming the Tamil Nadu government over what it called a deliberate attempt to delay the trial in the high-profile cash for jobs scam involving former DMK Minister Senthil Balaji. The court questioned why over 2,000 people were named as an accused, calling it a complete fraud on the judicial system. Justices Suryakant and Joymala Bagchi demanded clarity on who the brokers, officers and selection committee members were and whether victims were forced to pay for jobs and were now being prosecuted. In fact, there are more observation and scathing ones at that coming to the fore from the Supreme Court, who has observed now and gone on to ask the Tamil Nadu government and tell them that if this is the way the trial is to proceed against Senthil Balaji, then you'll need a cricket stadium for the trial. The court has called the state's trial strategy a rudderless ship for implicating more than 2,000 accused in this particular case. Ananya Bhatnagar, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details. Some very scathing observations, Ananya, coming to the fore for a second consecutive day from the Apex Court.
Well, definitely. For the second consecutive day, it's been a bad day for, in fact, the Tamil Nadu government being called, their prosecution being called completely a rudderless ship, and in fact stating that whether they would need a cricket stadium to conduct this trial. In fact, if I go on and quote what, in fact, the topmost court of the country, a bench headed by Justice Joymala Bagchi, by Justice Suryakant and Justice Joymala Bagchi is concerned, they went on to say that we want from you clearly and definitely what is your, prosecutional plan. It seems to be a very rudderless ship with over 2,000 odd accused and 500 odd witnesses. How would you achieve clubbing until and unless we gave a suggestion that you see the witnesses with regard to the degree of marginal culpability and prime culpability? So basically, the Supreme Court is asking as to whether, who would be the people that, in fact, would be prosecuted and why. In fact, it's a question that came in yesterday also, that why people who were pressurized by the henchmen of Senthil Balaji were being prosecuted in this particular case. These were mere bribe givers who wanted jobs for their kids or their fair skin. And that is something, that is the Supreme Court very clearly saying that, this is being done so as to save the minister and to ensure that the trial continues for the lifetime of the minister so that he does not get indicted into this particular case. Poonam.
Right, Ananya, do stay on with us. Purnima also joins us, getting us more details. Purnima, did we have any response coming in from Senthil Balaji's council or from the state government? Because this is the second consecutive day when we've had such scathing observations that have come to the fore.
Has not responded, but yesterday the DMK did say that the matter is sub judice and that Senthil Balaji's council will handle the case, and therefore they did not want to comment on this. However, the DMK continues to remain tight-lipped as far as the developments are concerned, and this in run to the Tamil Nadu Assembly polls, which is 8 months ago, and Senthil Balaji is one of the key loyalists and aides of Chief Minister M.K. Stalin. But now the Supreme Court pulling up Tamil Nadu government. We'll have to see whether the DMK will respond to this, but at the moment they remain tight-lipped over the developments that have taken place over the last 2 days.
Now, Purnima, as far as Senthil Balaji is concerned, the apex court has come down heavily, even in the past, on the Tamil Nadu government, isn't it? The fact that he was reinstated, why that hurry was shown as a question that the Supreme Court had asked the state government in the past as well. So, this is a case that has been haunting, so to say, the DMK and the Tamil Nadu government for several months now.
Absolutely. It's been going on for several months. Remember, the Supreme Court had earlier asked why Senthil Balaji was immediately sworn in as a cabinet minister, even though he just came out on bail. And so, therefore, after facing massive backlash, the Tamil Nadu government decided to have a cabinet reshuffle. In 2024 is when Balaji was granted bail. Ever since then, the DMK has faced a lot of backlash, and Senthil Balaji now has been removed from the post, but he will be playing a key role as far as 2026 elections is concerned, because he's also one of the strategists for the DMK, especially in the Congo belt in Tamil Nadu. So at the moment, the DMK remains tight-lipped, and they say that they will take this case legally, and the council will handle this case, is something that they continue to maintain. But Senthil Balaji and the DMK both have faced backlash over the last couple of months, especially with the way the Tamil Nadu government has protected him.
Purnima, do stay on with us. Ananya also getting us those details of what's transpiring in the Supreme Court. As far as the case which the Supreme Court was hearing, if you could shed some light, Ananya, on that. We're given to understand that one of the victims of this alleged scam, which was orchestrated allegedly by Senthil Balaji when he was a minister, he approached the Supreme Court challenging a lower court's order.
Well, it is in fact a plea by one of the victims in this particular case who had knocked the doors over the March 28 order of the Madras High Court as far as, segregating and clubbing of the trial is concerned in this particular case. Very categorically, the Supreme Court has been wrapping the Tamil Nadu government for the last 2 days. They've been facing the wrath at the top of the country. Today, going as far as to say that, it is in fact the most populated trial of India, wherein 2,500 people would be prosecuted, would be under the lens of the prosecution, and not only that, saying that AI generated people could actually come up into this trial is what in fact the top of the country had to say, and that is something that is in fact very, very significant as far as the Supreme Court's observations are concerned. August 11 is the next date when the topmost of the country would be hearing this particular matter.
Right, Ananya, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. Shifting focus now, there's massive action by the CBI against builders. We're given to understand a case has been registered against at least 22 different builders operating in the Delhi National Capital Region. Searches were conducted by the CBI in at least 47 locations across the NCR. Anshul, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details on this. Anshul, what were these raids in connection with? What is the case that the CBI is pursuing?
Well, yes, this entire action by the Central Bureau of Investigation is being seen as a relief to the home buyers who had moved the Supreme Court recently. We remember more than 1,200 home buyers had moved the Supreme Court, in which they had claimed that they were actually being forced to pay EMIs at the time possession of the flats was not given to them. Now, the entire modus operandi that has been investigation is that there was a nexus between financial institutions and a specific set of builders. These are 22 builders that have been now named by the Central Bureau of Investigation. Basically, these builders used to take the loan amounts from the financial institutions on the name of home buyers, and they used to tell the home buyers that till the time they get the possession, the EMIs will be paid from the side of the builders. But eventually they defaulted on all these EMIs, and which eventually resulted that the financial institutions started imposing fines on the home buyers themselves, whereas they were not given, whereas the contract that they had initially signed was actually not fulfilled from the side of the builders. And now now after the orders of the Supreme Court, in which the Supreme Court had ordered the Central Bureau of Investigation to register a case into this entire matter, finally a case has been registered and an investigation has taken off in this entire matter. 47 locations were raided by the Central Bureau of Investigation this morning itself. These locations included big builders of Delhi NCR region, including that of JP Logics and other builders who have continuously defaulted on their promises that were made to the home buyers. The Supreme Court has also gone ahead and said that this will be a court-monitored probe, and a report should be submitted to the Supreme Court once every month. So the Central Bureau of Investigation also expects that this entire investigation will be kept in an expeditious manner, and relief would actually be given to these home buyers who are ailing under this massive burden of unwarranted money that they have to pay to the financial institutions. So now an investigation has been launched into this entire matter. Over the next few days, as the investigation will be carried out, it remains to be seen if at all the Central Bureau of Investigation would be able to give justice to these home buyers who have allegedly been defrauded by these big builders of Delhi NCR region.
Any response from any of those 22 builders that have been booked, Anshul?
At this point in time, there is no official response that has come in. It is just this morning that a case has finally been registered. Before this as well, there were separate inquiries that were being conducted by the Economic Offences Wing of the Delhi Police and other local police agencies, including that of Noida and Gurugram as well. But however, now finally, all these cases have now come under an umbrella investigation that will be done by the Central Bureau of Investigation, and it remains to be seen if at all these big builders would eventually release a statement on these issues. But yes, constantly allegations have been raised against them in the manner in which they have defrauded the home buyers, not only in Delhi but also in the NCR regions of Noida, Gurugram, Faridabad as well. So definitely it remains to be seen if at all they will come out with some sort of a justification or not. But at this point in time, the manner in which the investigation is going on, it is likely that troubles for all these builders is likely to increase over the next few months.
Right, Anshul, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. Shifting focus now, India is all set to launch one of the most expensive Earth observation satellites, NISAR, today. That happens at about 5:40 p.m. That launch is going to take place from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in Andhra Pradesh's Sriharikota. Jointly developed by ISRO and NASA, NISAR marks a major milestone in Indo-US space collaboration. The satellite will be placed into a 747-kilometer sun-synchronous polar orbit. NISAR, short for NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, will use advanced L-band and S-band radar to monitor land deformation, ice dynamics and ecosystem changes. It will also track glacier movements, forest patterns and seasonal shift, especially across the Himalayas, which is important as far as India and ISRO goes. It is cutting-edge technology that we are going to be seeing on display, and NISAR is expected to revolutionize climate and environmental research for both India and the United States.
Almost a decade ago, when the US-based NASA Aeronautics Space Administration, that is NASA, proposed a collaboration with scientists from Indian Space Research Organization. Now, the idea was to build a powerful Earth observation satellite. Both ISRO and NASA have multiple Earth observation satellites orbiting the Earth, collecting huge amount of data. A lot of these satellites even use the SAR technology, which is the synthetic aperture radar. This is basically a kind of a radar which sends microwave signals to the Earth, which bounces back to create a fine imagery. But this time the idea went to a bigger level. ISRO and NASA decided to build a dual frequency radar, that is, one which carries the L-band and the S-band. Now, this L-band radar was worked on by NASA, while the S-band by Indian Space Research Organization. Now, this dual frequency radar then was connected with a 9-meter boom connecting to an unfurlable large antenna, which is about 12 meters in diameter. Now, all these components were separately worked upon, then integrated and brought together, and then shipped to Sriharikota, the Satish Dhawan Space Centre, the primary spaceport for Indian Space Research Organization. And today we are here, right here in Sriharikota, where this important launch is expected to take place. NISAR, which is a NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, as I said, has been in the making for almost a decade. Now, we have heard a lot about it, but why is NISAR so special? What makes NISAR special is that it's going to cover Earth every 12 days, collecting huge amount of data.
Shrishti, my colleague, now joins us live, getting us more inputs on this. Shrishti, you are in Sriharikota. That launch is going to take place in about half an hour from now. But do tell our viewers why exactly this is important. This is not the first collaboration that we've seen between India and the United States. It's not any of the first satellite launches that we are going to see. So why is this significant?
Hello Poonam. Yes, so this is not the first time that both the space agencies are collaborating, but this is definitely one of the biggest space collaborations between both the Indian Space Research Organization and NASA. On this mission, the one part of the satellite was built by JPL NASA, the other part was built by ISRO, and then both of the parts had to be integrated and transported to Sriharikota, where it is now set to take off. As you can see behind me, the countdown is just like has already begun, and we are just moments away from the liftoff, which is expected to take place from Sriharikota at exactly 5:40 p.m. As of now, the conditions look very good, the weather is fine, and everything is on track for a seamless launch. What makes this satellite and this mission extremely special is that this is the most powerful Earth observation satellite to be launched by any of the space agencies ever. Now, NISAR has a large swath area, that is, at a particular moment in time, it can cover an area of about 240 kilometers with a resolution of about 2 to 30 meters. So you can see objects which are about just 2 meters apart. Now, this amount of data and this high resolution is extremely crucial for scientists worldwide to track natural hazards like landslides, volcanic eruptions, as well as earthquakes. Now, early this morning, when Russia reported this earthquake of magnitude 8.8, now when NISAR comes into operation, then the data from NISAR is also going to be crucial for disasters like this, to prepare all the countries in advance, and the kind of damage can be really assessed. Now, this data is also crucial for climate change studies, because it helps us understand the subtle changes on the land as well as oceans. Now, we know that the glaciers are melting, the sea levels are rising, the forest cover is depleting. So NISAR is going to give all that data. It's going to monitor the satellite every 12 days with that kind of resolution. And this all is being done by GSLV. So GSLV is a satellite which is going to lift off this satellite into a sun-synchronous orbit at an altitude of about 745 kilometers. So now at 5:40 p.m. when the satellite takes off, it's going to take about 18 minutes for the satellite to separate from the rocket, and then the process will begin, and we'll get to get more data from the satellite in the days to come. But yes, one of the most important space collaborations between the two countries, India and the US.
Absolutely. And the mission that, or the point of this entire satellite launch is also forest tracking. It's also agriculture monitoring, crop monitoring. And that's going to be extremely crucial for a country like India, Shrishti, isn't it, given how important our farm sector, our agri sector is?
Definitely, Poonam. Yeah, this data, this is the Earth observation data. And as of now, when we know that the challenge of climate change is upon us, we really need to monitor Earth in real time and understand those changes in a very subtle manner. We know that the sea levels are rising, the cyclones are rapidly intensifying in countries like India, the forest cover is depleting, and the ice sheets are also disappearing fast. So all this data will really help us understand those changes and prepare for, prepare for future. And most importantly, like I was telling you about the natural hazards. Now, we cannot really predict earthquakes. Something of, as high a magnitude as 8.8 that hit Russia early this morning. Now, a satellite like NISAR, which has such a high, powerful resolution, it can really give a lot of data to prepare countries in advance. Let's say if the tsunami warning is kicking in, how many areas can be really flooded? What is the extent of the movement of the sea water? So all this data will really help us to prepare for natural hazards. It will also feed into early warnings, which is one of the goals of the World Weather Agencies, to ensure that all the people in all the countries are alerted in advance in case a natural hazard sets in. And of course, it's also an important satellite for our agricultural data, because it will map the cover, the crop cover, and how the changes are taking place, how much of the land we are losing because of the human activities or because of other changes which are happening, the land subsidence, which is also another concern in various countries. And this data is, will be generated every day and will be made freely available to researchers worldwide. But yes, this will be processed by ISRO as well as NASA. This satellite, see, we have launched SAR, which is the synthetic aperture radar based satellites, many times. Although I would like to highlight that both ISRO and NASA have multiple Earth observation satellites orbiting the Earth. But to have a dual frequency radar like the L band and S band, and with such a powerful antenna. Now this antenna which is aboard the satellite is 12 meters in diameter. It's one of the largest that has ever flown into space. So in terms of the extent, the amount of work, and of course the budget also. Now this entire satellite was built at a cost of about $1.5 billion. So this makes it one of the rather most expensive Earth observation satellite to be launched in space ever. And that is why it took a lot of work. We were expecting it to launch 2 years ago, but then now we are here in Sriharikota waiting for the satellite to lift off seamlessly from this second launch pad facility at Sriharikota, which is ISRO's primary launch pad. And this is an important mission for our GSLV, our heaviest launcher. And yes, and this is the 102nd launch from Sriharikota, so another milestone there.
Absolutely, Sushri, do stay on with us. But you've been in Sriharikota speaking with the stakeholders of why this is important, the significance of the collaboration between ISRO and NASA. Let's listen into some of those reactions as well.
Tell us why this mission is so important and why you're here.
Yeah, so previously I worked on this satellite. Now I am no longer with ISRO, but I think I wanted to see my work go to the space, and this is a very important satellite that is going to the vacuum here. The importance is that this particular satellite will have two different bands in microwave, so L band and S band, and this is the first dual frequency SAR satellite that is going to space, that is going to look back at Earth. So it's a very important satellite, and it's also a very big moment for India.
Right. Now he has also worked on the satellite. Now let me just highlight that scientists from across India and the US have been working on this mission for almost a decade. So it's a culmination of a really long, hard work. Could you tell us a little more about the work that you did for this satellite while you were in ISRO?
Yeah, cool. So there, for this particular any satellite, there are two segments. One thing is space segment, and one thing is ground segment. So I was working on the ground segment where we take the data, process it, and disseminate it to the users. The speciality of this satellite is all the satellite data and also all the software that is used to process this data is all in the open source. So any user, may it be a layman or an advanced user, can take this data, consume it for his own applications. So that is the kind of work that we did.
So this is your first time witnessing a launch at ISRO?
Yes, ma'am, this is our first time.
Okay, so what are you looking forward to? What do you know about NASA?
So NASA is a very big space research center. It is situated in United States. So we are very excited for this launch today. We have a very good chance to see this launch.
Okay, so many of these students are witnessing a launch for the very first time, because most of us have seen it on TV. Yes. So how is the anticipation like, you know?
Like from childhood we have been seeing we'll hear news, so we are very excited to see it by naked eyes.
Why have you brought these students? Why is this mission important?
Yes, here we have our undergraduate and postgraduate programs. They are studying about aeronautical, so how the aircraft will be fly, so what is meant by rocket, how it will be launched, what is the different types of rocket engines used. So last semester also the students are studied. So what are the different parts of a rocket? So if they are seeing the things visually, they will get more idea about how it's going to be. So it's everyone's dream also. So witnessing the launch, so India, ISRO and NASA put together launching an event. So it's one of the precious things. And also this satellite is going to monitor all the day-to-day activities of weather and everything.
Right.
So we are really excited to witness this event.
We'll keep a track of that launch that takes place in less than half an hour from now. But it is time for a quick break on this edition of Nation at 5. Don't go anywhere. News and updates continue here.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
A massive 8.8 magnitude earthquake struck, triggering tsunamis and prompting alerts across the Pacific, right from Alaska and Hawaii to as far south as New Zealand. Japan's meteorological agency has recorded a 40-centimeter tsunami on the southern shore in Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula. Near the epicenter, authorities reported structural damage and evacuations, but no major injuries. According to local media reports, residents are leaving the city following the powerful earthquake. The first tsunami wave hit an area in Russia's Kuril Islands. Now, we are going to continue to bring you more details around this, but the governor confirming that residents were safe and had remained on elevated ground as a precaution against further waves. Meanwhile, the Indian consulate in San Francisco monitoring the potential tsunami threat. It's asked its residents to follow the tsunami directives to remain safe. We're going to play out reactions for you. Take a look.
Сегодняшнее землетрясение стало серьезным испытанием для всех нас. Сильнейшие за последние десятилетия толчки мы испытали. Сейчас специалисты, сейсмологи обобщают оценки. Предварительная оценка в диапазоне от 7,7 до 7,9 сил толчков. Мы живем в сейсмоопасном районе, поэтому должны быть готовы и к таким событиям. Просьба сохранять спокойствие.
All right, next, CNN's Alison Chinka explains what potential tsunami waves from this earthquake off the coast of Russia could actually look like. Take a look.
Likelihood is very high that the U.S. will see some type of tsunami wave. The one thing we just don't know at this point is how strong those tsunami waves, how high are they going to be, what kind of damage would they end up causing in some of those areas. Now, here is the look at where the earthquake took place. This is the 8.8. It was 13 miles deep. That may seem like very deep, but it's not. It's actually very shallow in terms of geological things. So when we take a look at this, the tsunami waves are going to continue to propagate out. Okay, so they're going to continue to stretch out. The unfortunate part is when they propagate out in this direction, that really kind of puts Hawaii in particular kind of right there in the main line of the target. Now, we've talked about Japan, for example. They're kind of off to the side. Same thing with some of these Aleutian Islands, so they may not necessarily get some of the largest of the tsunami waves. It may actually end up being some other entities, and this is why you have all of these places under some type of tsunami alert. The orange color here for the western Aleutian Islands as well as Hawaii, those are under the tsunami warning. The yellow color here for the remainder of the Aleutian Islands, as well as the entire western coast of the U.S. and portions of Canada as well. That is under a tsunami advisory. It's a little bit farther out. The good news is they will get a little bit more leeway in terms of timing and a heads up. So here's what we're talking about. Here's a look at that. So here's where the epicenter was. This is the propagating lines. This kind of tells us how long it's going to take before the tsunami waves would arrive in certain places. So you can see some of them have already started to arrive in portions of Japan and even into the Aleutian Islands, at least the very, very far western ones, but they're off to the side. It's really going to be the center portion of this that we are most concerned about.
Okay, let's bring you more context around this story and exactly what happened. A tsunami hit the coastal areas of Russia's Kuril Islands and Japan's large northern island of Hokkaido.
With us here on CNN News 18, the India-Pakistan cricket match as part of the Asia Cup scheduled for 14th of September has triggered a massive controversy back home. Coming just months after the deadly Pahalgam attack, it has armed the opposition, asking the government and the BCCI why we're playing ball with Pakistan. AIMIM Chief and Member of Parliament Assuddin Owaisi voiced his opposition during the special discussion on Operation Sindoor in Lok Sabha yesterday. He said his conscience won't allow him to watch the match even, citing national sentiment. Opposition parties have accused the government and BCCI of rushing to earn blood money, as they claim, and failing to show sensitivity towards national security and the sentiments of the armed forces. Meanwhile, victims' families have also questioned BCCI's decision. Amid this controversy, Ease My Trip has withdrawn its sponsorship from the India vs Pakistan World Championship of Legends semi-final. The company's CEO says that terror and cricket cannot go hand in hand.
आज़म और हुकूमत से यह है, फिर जिन इंसानों को बैसारा की वादी में मारा गया था, क्या आपका ज़मीर इस बात की इजाजत देता है कि आप ट्रेड बंद कर दिए, पाकिस्तान का एयरक्राफ्ट हमारे एयर स्पेस में नहीं आ सकता, उनकी कश्ती हमारे पानी में नहीं आ सकती, ट्रेड खत्म हो चुका है डायरेक्ट इनडायरेक्टेड, आपका ज़मीर जिंदा क्यों नहीं है? किस सूरत से आप पाकिस्तान से क्रिकेट मैच खेलेंगे जब हम पानी नहीं दे रहे हैं? 80% पानी पाकिस्तान का हम रोक रहे हैं। ये कहकर के पानी और खून नहीं बहेगा, आप क्रिकेट मैच खेलेंगे? मैडम, मेरा ज़मीर तो गवारा नहीं करता कि मैं उस मैच को देखूंगा।
It is shameful. And I had also hoped that the Prime Minister would just call it off, because when he said Operation Sindoor is still ongoing, this would be cancelled. And I have done some research. Let me tell you, in 1991, when when there was the Asia Cup which was to happen, Pakistan had boycotted that cup on the basis of the heightened tensions between India and Pakistan. India went ahead with the tour. The tour was to happen in India. India went ahead with the tour. India, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh played it, and India emerged the winner. What stops my nation? When my Prime Minister is saying Operation Sindoor is on, who has green flagged this event?
See, the government's official stand is the Operation Sindoor is still ongoing. Operation Sindoor is not an ordinary operation. Our military, our forces are involved in it. When you have our forces on high alert and they are in the middle of operation against the enemy, how can you think about playing cricket with them? Okay. What would you say to our Jawans?
No, see, I can understand if we were not in control of the ICC. Even if we were not in control, we could have protested, saying that we don't intend to play with terrorist state. But when Mr. Jaishankar is at helm of affairs, who happens to be the son of the most powerful Home Minister in independent India, Mr. Amit Shah, you are going ahead and playing match with Pakistan against the nation's sentiments. What is the intent? What message are you trying to say? And when the nation's sentiments are so high against this, why are they doing this? Why is the Home Minister so silent? Is sponsorship deals, is stadium TRPs more important to BCCI than national pride, than the sentiments of the countrymen?
Pallavi, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details. Pallavi, we've heard what the opposition has to say. The BJP, meanwhile, has been tight-lipped. The BCCI, via sources, has told us why it is important for India to not pull out of this, because this is not just about the Asia Cup or this one particular match, but hosting rights for all future events, including the Olympic bid that India is eyeing, that could be in jeopardy.
That's right. In fact, that's exactly what we have been reporting since morning on this. What top government sources have been telling us, that there is an IOC charter. Just to break it down, Poonam, there is an IOC charter. India is very much a part of that. And now cricket also comes under the IOC charter. Now, if we are going to bid for Olympics, which we certainly would want to do in the future, that this could become a problem area for us, because this question will arise on India is where is your sporting professionalism. You may have differences with each other, but this is not a bilateral match. This is a multi-level lateral match, and therefore these factors will have to be taken into account. An example which was thrown up was that of a match which was played between France and Russia in the last Olympics, despite the fact that the two of them never got along. That was the kind of professionalism which has been cited and offered to India. I think next week the sports minister is going to be speaking on the sports bill when it's introduced, and this is certainly going to be an issue he is going to be dealing with, because inside the parliament the voices going in favour of scrapping the India-Pakistan match has been growing, but equally top government sources are also making it very clear that how it is very difficult to do so.
Right, Pallavi, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. That has been the response of the BCCI. The Sports Ministry has been maintaining that as well. But there are several, not just politicians, but several former cricketers as well, who have come out and now batted for this match to go on, echoing what the government has been saying, or the BCCI has been saying. In fact, former Indian skipper Sourav Ganguly has supported the match at the Asia Cup. He says that the Pahalgam terror attack should not have happened, and that should be condemned. But sports must go on.
The sports is different. Sports is different. I'm happy that they are playing. It's an honest confession. Pahalgam should not happen. Death should not happen. But sports is sports. So, amar mote, thik ache. Game should go on.
On that note, it's time for a quick break on this edition of Nation at 5. But news and updates continue on CNN News 18. Don't go anywhere.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
A massive 8.8 magnitude earthquake struck, triggering tsunamis and prompting alerts across the Pacific, right from Alaska and Hawaii to as far south as New Zealand. Japan's meteorological agency has recorded a 40-centimeter tsunami on the southern shore in Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula. Near the epicenter, authorities reported structural damage and evacuations, but no major injuries. According to local media reports, residents are leaving the city following the powerful earthquake. The first tsunami wave hit an area in Russia's Kuril Islands. Now, we are going to continue to bring you more details around this, but the governor confirming that residents were safe and had remained on elevated ground as a precaution against further waves. Meanwhile, the Indian consulate in San Francisco monitoring the potential tsunami threat. It's asked its residents to follow the tsunami directives to remain safe. We're going to play out reactions for you. Take a look.
Сегодняшнее землетрясение стало серьезным испытанием для всех нас. Сильнейшие за последние десятилетия толчки мы испытали. Сейчас специалисты, сейсмологи обобщают оценки. Предварительная оценка в диапазоне от 7,7 до 7,9 сил толчков. Мы живем в сейсмоопасном районе, поэтому должны быть готовы и к таким событиям. Просьба сохранять спокойствие.
All right, next, CNN's Alison Chinka explains what potential tsunami waves from this earthquake off the coast of Russia could actually look like. Take a look.
Likelihood is very high that the U.S. will see some type of tsunami wave. The one thing we just don't know at this point is how strong those tsunami waves, how high are they going to be, what kind of damage would they end up causing in some of those areas. Now, here is the look at where the earthquake took place. This is the 8.8. It was 13 miles deep. That may seem like very deep, but it's not. It's actually very shallow in terms of geological things. So when we take a look at this, the tsunami waves are going to continue to propagate outward. Okay, so they're going to continue to stretch out. The unfortunate part is when they propagate out in this direction, that really kind of puts Hawaii in particular kind of right there in the main line of the target. Now, we've talked about Japan, for example. They're kind of off to the side. Same thing with some of these Aleutian Islands, so they may not necessarily get some of the largest of the tsunami waves. It may actually end up being some other entities, and this is why you have all of these places under some type of tsunami alert. The orange color here for the Western Aleutian Islands as well as Hawaii, those are under the tsunami warning. The yellow color here for the remainder of the Aleutian Islands, as well as the entire western coast of the U.S. and portions of Canada as well. That is under a tsunami advisory. It's a little bit farther out. The good news is they will get a little bit more leeway in terms of timing and a heads up. So here's what we're talking about. Here's a look at that. So here's where the epicenter was. This is the propagating lines. This kind of tells us how long it's going to take before the tsunami waves would arrive in certain places. So you can see some of them have already started to arrive in portions of Japan and even into the Aleutian Islands, at least the very, very far western ones, but they're off to the side. It's really going to be the center portion of this that we are most concerned about.
Okay, let's bring you more context around this story and exactly what happened. A tsunami hit the coastal areas of Russia's Kuril Islands and Japan's large northern island of Hokkaido. This was moments after a powerful 8.8 magnitude earthquake hit Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula today morning. Now, what do we know about the tsunami alerts that we've seen take place already? We'll speak about different regions. So, in Japan, the meteorological agency said a first tsunami wave, as we told you already, this was a wave of about 30 centimeters, had reached Nemuro on the eastern coast of Hokkaido. A first tsunami wave also hit the coastal area of Severodvinsk, the main settlement on Russia's Kuril Islands in the Pacific, according to the local governor. He said residents were safe and staying on high ground until the threat was gone. Now, Indonesia and Philippines have also issued tsunami warnings. The earthquake off the peninsula was the strongest since 1942. The Kamchatka branch of the Geophysical Service of the Russian Academy of Sciences has said that given the scale of this event, we should expect strong aftershocks, possibly with magnitudes of up to 7.5. Just take a look at those visuals coming in on your screen right now. Evacuations in Japan and the US taking place as major earthquake off Russia triggers a widespread tsunami warning. All right, this is the CNN coverage. Take a look.
Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5, and the story we're focusing on at this hour is the launch of one of the most expensive Earth observation satellites that's going to take place in just a few minutes from now. NISAR is going to be launched from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Andhra Pradesh's Sriharikota. This is a collaboration between ISRO and NASA, between India and the United States, and this marks a major milestone as far as space collaboration between the two countries is concerned. My colleague Shrishti joins us from Sriharikota. She's been getting us all the voices of why this is significant. She's been getting us the mood on ground as well. And Shrishti, we're about T-8 if I'm not mistaken. What's the mood like there?
Well, Poonam, we are now just 4 minutes away from the launch, as the announcement just announced, and we are 4 minutes from the launch. The GSLV standing tall, 51 meter tall, on the second launch pad facility at Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. As we were talking about earlier, this mission has been coming for a long time. The scientists from both the countries have been working on this mission for almost a decade. Now here also we have a few scientists from NASA JPL who have come to witness this launch because this mission took a really long time, because one part of the component was built here by ISRO, the other part was built by NASA JPL. Now the L-band and the S-band radar, then there had to be a large antenna which was also built. Both the integration took place, after which the entire satellite was shipped to Sriharikota for the final takeoff. Now ISRO is using its heaviest launcher, which is the GSLV, for this very important mission. It's going to place the satellite into a sun-synchronous orbit at an altitude of about 745 kilometers. Now when we say sun-synchronous orbit, it means the satellite is going to observe the regions at the same precise time every day. Now NISAR, as we were talking about earlier, is the most expensive Earth observation satellite. It's going to measure Earth every 12 days, creating a lot of important data. It's going to measure subtle changes which are happening on the Earth, on the land, oceans, the melting glaciers, and will help us really prepare for the natural hazards. Now this satellite is based on the SAR technology. Now this is basically synthetic aperture radar. This is a radar technology where you send microwave signals to the Earth. They bounce back to create that high resolution imagery. The resolution is about 2 to 30 meters, which is the finest so far. So you can really actually separate two objects which are about 2 meters far from each other. So that is why it's the most extensive Earth observation satellites, and it really took a long time for the space scientists from both the countries to really work on it. It's built at a cost of about $1.5 billion, with both the space agencies contributing to it. Now we are just 2 minutes away from the launch. The weather looks good, and hopefully we can see really stunning visuals of this beautiful rocket lifting off from Sriharikota, which is the primary space port for the Indian Space Research Organization. And 18 minutes into the launch, the satellite will separate from the rocket, and then the main process will begin about placing it into the right orbit to get the data. Mind you, it will take us a long time for the data to come in, because it does take a lot of effort from the scientists to really place it at the right precision point in space.
So that is going to happen in about 2 minutes from now. There's a lot of crowd that we see there as well. A lot of people have turned up, space enthusiasts, several students there in attendance as well to witness this moment, Shrishti.
Yes, Poonam. There have been, students have come from different parts of different states to come to witness this launch. Now we are 1 minute away from the launch, and the excitement is really building up here. A lot of people have gathered here. A lot of scientists who have been working on this mission for the last decade, they are here to witness this important launch. And as I said earlier, it's the biggest space collaboration between ISRO and NASA, and will really change the way we view Earth and collect data about Earth. NISAR.
Second. An operational philosophy unique to the 370 F-16 NISAR mission is that cusp stage is operated by 11% for the duration of 405 seconds. About 11 minutes into flight, the cryogenic upper stage shuts down. The satellite NISAR is separated, injected into an altitude of 745.5 kilometers with a relative velocity of 7.57 kilometers per second.
Minus 25 seconds.
We are mere 25 seconds from the launch.
All movies open. Minus 20 seconds.
हम सभी दर्शक हमारे साथ बने रहिए।
सर्वप्रथम
T-4.8 सेकंड्स पर L-40s का प्रज्वलन हम देखेंगे।
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All L40 engines generating nominal thrust. S139 motor
Plus 5 seconds.
That's a magnificent of the GSLV F-16 NISAR mission. The deafening roar of GSLV and beautiful silhouette brightening the Sriharikota sky.
जी हाँ, अभी आपने देखा चारों L40 तथा 4 बूस्टर S139 का सफल प्रज्वलन और GSLV F-16 का उत्थापन द्वितीय प्रमोचन मंच से, और ये अपने गंतव्य की ओर बढ़ता हुआ। हम यहाँ कंपन महसूस कर पा रहे हैं मिशन नियंत्रण केंद्र पर।
The first stage of GSLV with S139 solid core motor and 4 L40 liquid strap-ons thrusting together. 7,800 kilonewton cumulative thrust.
First stage performance normal.
Sharwan is in main auto.
The day of launch
Plus
wind
1
biasing
minute.
program that is fed into the onboard computers helped the rocket to
Shah
veer
2 is
through
in
the
main auto.
atmosphere with minimal aerodynamic loads.
प्रथम चरण का कोर बूस्टर लगभग 100 सेकेंड्स तक प्रज्वलित रहेगा तथा L40 चरण 150 सेकेंड तक प्रज्वलित रहकर शांत हो जाएंगे। तत्पश्चात इसे यान से पृथक कर दिया जाएगा। वर्तमान में सभी तंत्र सामान्य निष्पादन करते हुए और यान अपने अपेक्षित पथ का अनुकरण करता हुआ जा रहा है।
Performance normal.
Currently, the rocket is in open loop guidance. Shar ground station is tracking.
S139 burnout.
कोर बूस्टर का प्रज्वलन समाप्त हो चुका है।
Here
Plus
we have
2
an
minutes.
announcement from the Range Operations Director that the core booster has stopped its operation. The 4 L40s are thrusting still.
First stage performance normal.
प्रथम चरण का कार्य निष्पादन पूरी तरह सामान्य। यान उद्दिष्ट दिशा की ओर अग्रसर होता हुआ वर्तमान में प्रथम चरण प्रज्वलित है। L40s प्रज्वलित हैं। इनका कुल कार्यकाल 150 सेकंड का होगा।
L40 shut off. GS2 ignited. GS1 separated. 1S. IS 1/2 main separated.
जी हाँ, अभी आपने सुना रेंज ऑपरेशन निदेशक ने इसकी पुष्टि की है। प्रथम चरण को सफलता से पृथक किया जा चुका है। द्वितीय चरण का प्रज्वलन शुरू हो चुका है।
Marking
Closed loop
the
guidance
milestone
initiated.
of the flight, the GS1 has undergone a hot separation and GS2 commenced its operation and thrusting nominally. The payload fairing has also been separated and closed loop guidance has been initiated.
जी हाँ, इस दौरान
Second stage performance normal.
वातावरण से बाहर जा चुका है, इसलिए पेलोड फेयरिंग या ऊष्मा कवच की आवश्यकता नहीं रहती, इसलिए इसे यान से पृथक कर दिया जाता है। और अब यान क्लोज लूप गाइडेंस के अंतर्गत है और स्वतः ही अपना दिशा निर्धारण कर रहा है।
Powered by the Vikas engine that uses the Earth storable propellant combination of UH-25 and N2O4, the second stage of GSLV develops 800.
We are shifting focus now from that to big breaking news that's coming in. Donald Trump, US President, has announced a 25% tariff for India. He's just put out a social media post on Truth Social where he talks about 25% tariff for India plus a penalty for buying arms and military equipment from Russia. Remember, Donald Trump had also threatened BRICS nations of additional tariffs. That's something that he also is hinting at in this particular post that he's put out on social media. The US President in his post goes on to say, while India is our friend, we have over the years done relatively little business with them because their tariffs were far too high. Also, they have always bought a vast majority of their military equipment from Russia. All of that has to stop now. All things not good. India will therefore be paying a tariff of 25% plus a penalty for the above starting August 1st. Akanksha, my colleague, now joining us, getting us more details. Akanksha, 12 hours ago, Donald Trump had said that Before the August 1st deadline ends, most countries will be facing a 20 to 25% tariff. He's now announced 25 for India.
Right, and this is indeed going to be a dampener for India, given that Indian officials have been burning the midnight oil in Washington. You know, there have been timely departures, and we've been trying to chalk out a deal which India was hoping should come up very soon. But this is indeed a dampener because what was expected till just hours ago was that perhaps they would settle for 15% tariffs, Poonam, because remember that is the percentage of tariffs which have been imposed so far on major trade deals that the United States has done. The most recent being the one they forged with the European Union, which has, of course, borne 15%. So 15% was what was expected. And with Donald Trump now announcing that, and to add fuel to fire, he's not just spoken about how the Indian market has very complex barriers. He's also talked about how India continues to purchase military equipment from Russia and is also Russia's largest buyer of energy along with China. And he's now calling out Russia for its role when it comes to the war in Ukraine. It's very, very significant that he's now singling out India, which has always maintained its multipolar stance when it comes to doing trade with these global parties, because remember, Dr. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, has been very vocal about just because it doesn't suit the United States and the Western hegemony to do business with other countries doesn't mean that India will single out time-tested allies, that too, like
Absolutely,
Russia.
and India's interests are going to be paramount. There are certain sectors that United States wanted access to. Those will not be opened up because they do not stand in India's interest, has been India's consistent stance. Do stay on with us, Akanksha. CNBC TV 18's Parikshit Luthra also joins us on this broadcast. My colleague Pallavi also getting us more perspective on this. But Parikshit, let me ask you this. Donald Trump there says 25% for India in addition to the penalty for buying arms from Russia, for being part of the BRICS. So where exactly does India stand then? What is our tariff rate going to look like?
Well, he's yet to make it clear what the penalty would be like. But remember, he has said that there will be a 10% additional tariff for countries which are part of BRICS. And he had warned countries with very high tariffs if they're buying Russian energy. So we are yet to see what the penalties will be like. But clearly, it seems that India could be facing higher tariffs from some of its competitors in the region, which is not good news. But what we also have to wait and see is when these tariffs actually come into effect. Would they come into effect within 1 week or within 1 month? That timeline is yet to be seen. India, of course, will be looking at all options, including retaliation. One thing is also clear. If US imposes 25% or 30% tariff on India, India will also impose reciprocal tariffs, and India has that option. That remains to be seen whether we will delay it till the time we can have a deal or we will do so immediately. From the Indian side, the news has been that we've given the best possible deal, minus agriculture and dairy, where we cannot make any compromise, and there's not any question of even bringing it to the negotiating room. We've done the best we could, but it cannot be unprecedented zero access for America. At the same time, what we're learning is that Donald Trump wants a much bigger headline deal in terms of $200, $300, $400 billion worth of investment announcements by the Indian government. That has not happened so far. We've seen those kind of investment commitments by Japan and Indonesia, which are not binding. We've not even seen the text of those agreements. But the US is urging India to make similar investment commitments as well. Where will this all lead to? We will have to see over the next few days. The talks are not over. They're not derailed. For the moment, there is no breakthrough, clearly. But towards the end of August, between the 15th to 20th of August, we will see a team from the United States coming to India to see if there can be any breakthrough for talks. But 25% tariff is something that will definitely hit certain exporters in the country. But we will also have to see the larger impact that will happen in case the tariffs go above 30-35%.
Parikshit, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. Pallavi also joining us, getting us more perspective. But to our viewers joining in at this moment, this is what has transpired. A 25% tariff has come to the fore from the United States for India. That announcement has been made by US President Donald Trump on social media. Pallavi, this comes at a time even as India and the United States have been in talks for a trade deal. So where do those talks lead now?
Just to add on to what Parikshit was correctly pointing out a short while back, it's not over yet. So, what has happened in the case of other countries when trade deals have been finalized, there have been negotiations and renegotiations which have taken place. For a start, I'm just going to wait for some official response to come in from the Commerce Ministry. The Commerce Minister is not inside the Parliament yet. He is going to be attending that final leg of the Operation Sindoor discussion, which is going to take place, Poonam. But one thing which the government has repeatedly been very, very clear about is that our interests are going to be protected first. Agro products, the graded sector, is a sensitive and an important sector, politically and economically speaking. That is a sector which has to be taken care of. But the second important thing, of course, over here is, for example, another labor-intensive sector that also has to be taken care of. For example, footwear, carpet, just to break it down for our viewers. Donald Trump does talk about the fact that we have a trade deficit with India. But the interesting part is that there has been a story of export surplus. In fact, India and America are one of the largest trading partners. I'm going to give a quick comparison. India and UK, it's around roughly 12 to 13% increase in the last 1 year. Between India and America, it has been actually as high as 26 to 28%, which is why this is a trade deal which really matters a lot. But to say that exporters are going to be disappointed, I don't think it's completely off the mark. But there have been those backroom plan B, which has been kept ready. That is one, to look at other countries, other options. The recent FTA, which was signed between India and UK, is yet another factor. There also the stress has been on agro products, on labor-intensive products. So we are hoping that what we lose by way of a trade with America is more than compensated as far as UK is concerned. Second, quickly, as far as Russia is concerned, the minister concerned has repeatedly gone on record to say, again, national interests are most important. Russian oil is the cheapest oil. Let's call out the hypocrisy of the West, which also buys it. But then you cannot expect us and bulldozers to walk out of the BRICS summit and then pay the price for it. So 35% is a pretty high figure. But as far as the Commerce Ministry sources are concerned, they are saying that it's not over yet.
Right, Pallavi, do stay on with us. Zaka Jacob also joining us from more perspective. Zaka, so 35% is the least perhaps what we'll see given the 25% and the tariffs that Donald Trump wants to levy on India. How do you read that?
So, look, the 25% is on India specifically and the 10% additional is for the BRICS countries. But the post that he's put out on Truth Social seems to indicate that Indian goods being sort of exported into the United States will be charged at 25%. Now, the problem with this arrangement, if, India and the US are not able to come to some kind of a breakthrough on this, is that, other countries in Southeast Asia, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, are being charged at much lower rates than India. India will be charged at a base of 25%. And that's a problem because as the US and China negotiate this, trading arrangement between themselves, and they've given themselves another 3 months to arrive at whatever the base tariff is, the other Southeast Asian and Asian countries stand to benefit. And that's a problem for India because many goods, including, for example, iPhones. India used to manufacture about 15% of the world's iPhones that are being exported into the US. That's expected to go from 15% to 25%. But the problem is that if that's going to be charged at 25%, as President Trump is now threatening, then that becomes unviable for American users, American customers. The point is that, these are charges that he is framing against India at a time when he's made concessions seemingly with the EU at 15%, with Japan at 15%, with Southeast Asian countries, Indonesia at 19%, Vietnam at 20%, Philippines again at 19-20%. India seems to be charged at 5% more than that. The problem for India is if we are at a tariff differential with China, that helps India, no question about it. But so far we don't know that because he's extended the negotiations with China by another 3 months. It could very well end up at the end of that 3-month period that Trump announces, let's say, a 20% tariff on China or a 15% tariff on China. that becomes a huge problem for India, because India then has to deal with this tariff differential of 5% to 10% between Indian exports into America and Chinese exports into America. But I think the critical factor is this. Something has happened in those negotiations where India was not able to convince the United States, like Europe has, or like Japan has, or like some of these traditional allies and military partners of the US have, that look, we need to be charged the lowest. That has somehow not come through. Maybe it's because of the negotiations floundering, maybe it's because that Trump, and he's been saying this for a number of months now, that India tariffs the highest. I'm not sure that that's exactly accurate or that's exactly, truthful. But the fact is, he's been saying that. Now, India needs to do something to try and negate that. India has signed the FTA with the UK. India has also, is in the process of or hoping to sign an FTA with the European Union. With the United States, if you look at global trade, no more than 15 to 20% of global trade happens with the US. The remaining 80% of global trade happens outside of the US market, whether it's imports or exports. The question is, India has two sort of options in front of it, two roads and two choices in front of it. One is to try and placate the US, try and placate Donald Trump and say, okay, let's try and find a deal, a trade deal with America before Trump comes to India for the Quad Summit later this fall. Or the other option is that we're not going to compromise on agriculture, genetically modified crops, soybeans and corn to be imported into India. So we're going to sort of draw down the line there and then hope that President Trump sees value or sees some kind of, merit in the Indian argument that, look, ultimately, if the big battle, the big great power competition is going to be between America and China, then America needs India more than India needs America. That is going to be a long-term sort of battle with the US, with US administration officials. Ultimately, net-net, starting the 1st of August, Indian exporters into the US, gems and jewelry, leather, footwear, all of these industries where small-scale industries, large number of people who are employed, they will have to end up paying 25% American tariffs, American duty on exports into the US, and that is not good news.
Stay with us, Zaka and Pallavi, getting us more as far as how India is likely to view this kind of a tariff bomb being dropped by US President Donald Trump. Zaka, what happens to the deal negotiations now? Because the outlook of the US administration doesn't seem to be very India-friendly at this stage. Donald Trump making it clear that, he's making India pay a penalty and otherwise for buying Russian energy, something India has explained Western powers for many, many months now. What happens to the trade deal negotiations now?
It continues. I'm given to understand that the American trade representative and his team of officials will be coming to India sometime in August. So that the whole process of negotiations will continue. The question is, can India arrive at some kind of deal with the United States in the course of the next few weeks and months? Look, the whole rationale of having these tariffs on imported products into the United States is born from the fact that the US President, Mr. Trump, believes that America is being ripped off in a trading arrangement over the last 20, 30, 40 years, where he believes that it's export heavy, in countries like Philippines, China, Vietnam, etc., which are ripping off America because there is a trade differential there. It includes India as well. He believes that trade needs to be much more balanced. Now, that is his view. The point is, what is India doing to try and convince him that it is in the interests of American consumers, in the interests of American businesses, in the interests of American, people who are going to the shops and to the departmental stores, who are buying for, let's say, Thanksgiving, who are buying for Christmas, that cheap Indian exports into the United States are good for American consumers. I don't think India has been able to convince him about that. Number two, in the course of this last few weeks, he's also managed to make some concessions for American allies, like Japan is being tariffed at 15%, the European Union is being tariffed at 15%. I have a feeling that South Korea too, in the next few days and weeks, will get tariffed at 15%. So why is India then being tariffed at a 10% differential? We still don't know how much American imports from China are going to be tariffed at. That's been postponed by 3 months. If Chinese imports are being tariffed at 20% and Indian imports are being tariffed at 25%, that pretty much renders Indian imports incompetitive, and that's a problem.
Zaka, just stay with me. I want to go across to my colleague Pallavi also, who's getting the first few responses that are coming in from the Indian government. Of course, they're going to read the fine print, Pallavi, but this must be a shock because just yesterday, Donald Trump indicated things could be different if a deal is worked out, and India was hopeful that the deal would be inked in the next few months. So something has happened in between, but how is the Indian government looking at this as we speak?
Shivani, even as we speak, I'm right at the corridor where the office of the Commerce Minister is there, and I can tell you there is a meeting going on in the Commerce Minister's chamber at this point of time. The External Affairs Minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar, is also present in that meeting. In fact, the countdown to the end of the Operation Sindoor debate is also about to begin. Of course, there would be a little bit of worrying signs, but as of now, they don't seem to be too perturbed. The first response that we are getting by way of our top government sources is that we are going through the fine print of the trade tariff policy, which has been announced by the American president, and we are then going to take a final structured response, and we are basically sinking in, and then we are going to come out with a structured response on what really this trade tariff means. What is going to be important now to find out is that the sectors on which the trade tariff has been imposed has India's agro product